Today we have Mr. Sudarshan Gangrade, CEO and founder of Low Foods. Welcome to Business World, sir.
Thank you, Urvi.
Right. When we talk about health and fitness, a lot of startups are coming up, especially when we talk about virtual workouts and online dietitian consultants. How does your business stand out from those which are already in the market, including the e-commerce websites?
So actually, we are a product. So two things happen. One is we are specifically playing in the low carb and keto space, and these products don't exist in the market yet. So in fact, we spent almost 6 months to build this product line from scratch. Like you won't find, for example, a low carb or keto bhujia or a muruku or a chakli, right? I mean, those products never existed. So in that sense, we really innovated and built these product lines, and that's why we are unique in that sense. So we have a product line that is not replicated, and then obviously it's used across multiple channels.
So you're giving an Indian twist to the ketogenic diet.
Yes. The low carb and ketogenic diet are very. So our tagline also, in fact, is all about Indian foods now low on carbs. So that's the whole idea, and that's something which doesn't, which is missing from the product portfolio of the large brands and even from a lot of startup brands. So.
Right. Given that you are building a fairly niche place for yourself, which is new, you must have encountered many challenges. Can you tell us about them and how did you overcome them?
First part is, it's not necessarily niche to begin with. I mean, keto may be niche, but low carb is something which is not necessarily niche. Today it may be smaller, but otherwise it applies to anyone who's trying to do weight loss or is diabetic, which is typically between 20 to 25% of the population. So put together. So which is why in that sense, the market that it addresses is very large. As a solution, it is new, but as a market, it is a very large market, and that's what we are trying to bridge to. In terms of the problems that came in, I mean, the first thing, like I said, is these products didn't exist, so we had to build it from scratch. The second thing is that India, if you look at any of the products that are there, right, any food product is built using 4 core ingredients. Either it's maida, or it's atta, or it's besan, or it's rice flour or dal. I mean, that's really the core of any snack, any food that's made in India. And they're all high on carbs. So we could not use any of them. So the thing is to build a product line that delivers the same texture and taste without using the core ingredients that we've been brought up and these products have been built was really the big challenge. So that took some time and to match the taste and texture. Post that, I think it's a standard thing about distribution and scaling up. So, but that I think has been less of a challenge for us till now.
When we talk about scaling up any business, especially which involves logistics as one of its key components, how has the lockdown affected Low Foods? Is it going up in its market reach, or is it facing many challenges coming?
We were an online first brand when we launched, and when lockdown came in, we were only online. So, and online grew during the lockdown. So, we actually did not have a problem at all. So, we actually grew pretty much through the entire COVID. We've just seen month on month new highs. So, we've never degrown in that sense.
Is Low Foods diversifying its source material?
Yeah, so we are looking for vendors for these products. There are some which are specialized products, we can't do anything, but we are actively looking for more suppliers so that we don't get stuck with one particular region alone.
Yeah, as they say, don't put all the eggs in one basket. So, yeah. So I wanted to ask you, are you doing any kind of innovation which is a novelty in the food industry or the food tech industry which hasn't been seen earlier?
Yeah, like I said, our product line has not been built earlier. So, that's something which we had to build from scratch. So it's, in that sense, it's an innovation. All of the products that we built are products that never existed. So today, for example, we have like I said, a muruku, a chakli kind of a thing. That product never existed. So we had to first formulate it so that it has the same, how muruku tastes, how muruku has the sharp edges, and then we also had to, in fact, invest and work with a company in Coimbatore to build a specific extruder for us that can work with the ingredients that we have. So we have a lot of innovation that we've done on that front. We've also done a lot of innovation on the distribution front. So we have also built a range of cloud kitchens. So not just packaged food and FMCG, we also have we have now about 20 cloud kitchens across across India. And that's been another innovation that we've done it. So now we have literally built our own distribution channel, and we also have built a fresh food business on top of our FMCG business. So we've tried multiple things, and we've innovated both on the product and the distribution front.
Given that Low Foods is already on 20 cloud platforms across India, is international expansion on the cards?
Yes. We're already present. We started in the US, Singapore, as a pilot a month or two back. Extremely good response. So that's something which we are now going to be focusing a lot more on.
Right. So most of the businesses are happening online, or the ones which are happening online. They don't want to shut down. But having said that, when things are normal again, when coronavirus is a thing of the past, how do you plan to sustain your business? Are we going to go in the brick and mortar model, or are we just going to stay online?
Brick and mortar will definitely happen. What is the product that will go with it is the question mark. And that's what we are working on, to figure out what's the right product for the offline, because it has to be a product market fit, right? So the current product has a certain fit with the online audience, which is evolved at one level, which is searching at one level. But for the offline audience, we need to tweak a product to have the match with the offline market. So that's something which we're working on. So eventually it will happen. The timeline may be a little far off.
When we talk about specific diets, like say the ketogenic, the low carb diet, cabbage soup diet, whatever is there in the market, it is supposed to be an urban fancy phenomenon. How do you plan to establish the connect with, say, tier 4 or tier 5 cities with respect to your product?
So interestingly, tier 3 cities contribute more business than tier 2 cities for us. And tier 3 and tier 2 put together contribute almost 40% of our sales. So this is a like I said, our category addresses a very large market. It's not a niche that we are playing in. Which is only a super premium localities thing. Our product actually applies because diabetes is prevalent across India, obesity is prevalent across India, and purchasing power is also present across India. Obviously, it is more in the metros, but there is enough and more purchasing power in the metros, in the smaller cities. So we are actually present across all of them, and tier 2 and tier 3 cities together contribute 40% of our business already. So it's not that we are a tier 1 only.
Right, that's good to learn that health awareness is spreading across India, and it's just not a fashionable term anymore.
Sudarshan, if I could, turn this a little towards your fundraising journey and how your funding has been till now. If you could talk to us, for the benefit of our audience, how have you gone about financing your business? Did you start off with some of your own funds? Were you able to get family and friends to invest? And what was the trigger for this current fundraise?
So when we started off, it was obviously my own money, and it had to be because we were trying to build something which had not been built. I mean, this product line, like I said, didn't exist. So we were trying to see whether we can even build an Indian kind of a food product which is low on carb. So that's really why almost 6 months we spent, and it was all typically in a flat, did all the R&D there. And once we were convinced, and that's when we started to get more formal about it. We had the product prototype ready, and we got some very initial feedback also online. And on the back of that is when we went to a lot of the investors. And I was very clear I did not want to do an institutional fundraise. I was looking at individuals who have experience in the food domain, FMCG domain, and the retail domain. So we managed to get. I reached out to a lot of them. They understood what's the vision we have. They were really very kicked up about it, and they were also very kicked up about the prototypes that we had, and in fact the food material that we had. In fact, I would, I never went to, in my first fundraise, I did not ever do any presentation. So I would just go sit across the table, talk to them. And I would just, at the start of the meeting, keep my products, like 5-6 snacks rakh ke kar dete. And I would just talk. And literally, by the end of it, they would have finished. I mean, that's how it would eventually happen, that all those 5-6 sample packs would have ended by that meeting. And they were convinced that this is a product that can work. And then obviously, I talk about the larger vision, but they've tasted the product and they've heard the vision. And in my fundraise, there was zero. I never presented. I never ever presented to anybody. So that's I think the product was very important, and that's what my focus was, at the product and the larger vision. And because we were still at a prototype phase. At this time, obviously, we wanted to talk about the larger vision because we had spent almost a year and a half in the market, and we have reached a very good traction, and very rapidly we've scaled, and we have a good revenue run rate. And which is something which is why we this time a lot of it was about reaching out to a little more institutional level investors, which is why we reached out to family offices. And we have the Chona family offices, the erstwhile promoters of Have More Ice Creams. They have built an FMCG business in India, and they have sold it as well. So they understand it in-house. They also have a product, and they have this outlets. So they understand both sides of the business. And really, they got it very quickly in terms of what we are trying to do. And they were very convinced in terms of what we have. So this time it was more about talking about the larger vision and what we are looking to do. And the fundraise, the whole premise this time is about, we've understood the market, we see initial traction, there is conviction around the product, and there is a product market fit. Now it's a question of scaling it, and that's really what we went to our investors with.
Great. So although I do recall that when we met, you didn't offer me any of your products, so I'm going to have to take you up on that when we meet next. But it's a very interesting perspective, right? Because we go for all these funding meetings, and it's all about presentations and numbers. But very interesting thing that somebody who has a product, and it could even be a software product, right? The real meat is in the product itself, right? But for people who want to understand other startups that are going through the journey that you are going through, right? At this stage, how did you go about figuring out which investors to approach? You did say, maybe you're going to an institutional level this time, but what was the process of identifying these investors? How easy was it for you to get responses from them? And what was the kind of a strike rate? So, although we don't want to know the exact number, but, for every N number of requests that you sent out, what's the kind of response rate you got?
I think Touchwood, we had a lot of inbound interest. So, I don't think I've reached out to, because we have a very strong set of angel investors who backed us initially. And after seeing the progress, and they're all individually very, very strong leaders in their own capacity, and founders and large founders. So in fact, when I began to consider this, so first of all, they said they are going to back us in this round as well. So, which is why I did not see the need to go to any institution in the first place. So that was anyways ruled out, because our existing investors were saying, we will back you to the next level. And then from their own network, they had a lot of network, and so they really were able to connect us there. I was again very clear, for me, an investor also has to bring something to the table apart from money. So for me, that was really the criteria, that they should have some connection to the food business, and which is why the choice of investors was very clear, that do they either come from an FMCG business, or from a distribution business, or from a food business, and that's how I would reach out to them. So we had someone, they would say, look, do you want to connect with ABC? Or I would probably ask them that, can you connect me? And mostly it was through network. I don't think we needed to reach out formally separately.
Great. And so what's next, right? So you've got this, great set of investors who've backed you, and you obviously have enough money to go for a certain period of time. So, do you have in mind, when's the next round going to be? Do you have a clarity in terms of, what goals, what milestones you want to achieve with this round?
I think we are very focused on execution. So even in fact, when we raised money almost a year and 10 months back. So we are always very capital efficient. We are, for me, the goal is not key or paisa power. I mean, really, that's not how I And it's in a product business, FMCG product business, that's not how it works. Unlike say a tech business, right, where having capital upfront makes a lot of, because you really need to go front load yourself in terms of acquisition. In our case, because we're building a category, it has to be organic and it has to be slow burn in that sense. So we've got now a clear idea of what we want to do. We have milestones, and that is what our investors are backing us against. At this point of time, I'm not thinking about the next fundraise. My hope is that we will continue to be as capital efficient, and if this lasts us for the next 18 to 24 months, that's great. If it lasts us for 12 months, then maybe 6 or 10, 8 months down the line, we'll look to do that. But then that's obviously against execution of the current goals.
All right. So one last question that, I think I have here is, although you're online first, right? But at the end of the day, what differentiates you from the current environment is that you're ultimately a product company, right? Most of the stuff that we are seeing out there is technology platforms and apps. How do you see, the funding environment for other people who want to get into product companies out there? Because, everybody seems to be focusing on tech and we seem to be losing out on a lot of great products. So what would be your advice to product entrepreneurs?
Product is very difficult because, I'm talking about non-tech products. I mean, physical product that you make, be it food or be it anything else, right? It's not easy, and my only thing will be that you need to have a very clear differentiation, because the competition is very, very high here, and so you need to have something that is unique to you. Just pure marketing alone will not sustain. So the product has to stand for something. Otherwise, you end up being just another. I mean, you'll end up being a commodity, because this is a heavily contested, and in a physical product, distribution is the key. As big a brand as you may have, distribution is the key, and that is really a function of scale. So if you want to build a product that can start to build a network or a niche of its own, it needs to be strongly differentiated, either in terms of the benefit it offers or in the way the brand is positioned. So that's something which I insist to everyone, that be very clear in terms of ensuring that you believe that the product is sufficiently differentiated and there's an enough market for that.
What would be your advice to entrepreneurs that are coming up in the e-commerce or the food tech space?
In the food space, I think it goes back to the same thing, which is distribution is extremely important. So online first makes sense. That will help you get the initial feedback from the customer. But if you want to really build a niche brand, you need to have a product that's clearly differentiated. And eventually you'll have to plan for offline. So don't assume that online will be the only world that you have to live with. The product should always be built keeping in mind that eventually it will go offline.
Okay. So that's it. We'll take your leave for the day. And thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Mr. Sudarshan from Low Foods, founder and CEO. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.